Marhaba. In this video, we're going to talk about some basic ways to express possibility and necessity in Arabic. In Egyptian and Levantine and many other dialects, two of the most powerful sentence-building words you can have in your vocabulary are mumkin and laazim. And while we're going to focus on colloquial forms, mostly Egyptian and Levantine in this video, it is possible to use them in formal Arabic in a modified way as well, and we're going to touch on that a little bit at the end. In this video, I'm going to assume that you have control of how to conjugate a verb in the present tense, and that you have picked your dialect, Egyptian or Levantine, and have a sense of how verbs work ordinarily. So mumkin is used to express possibility. It could mean maybe. It could mean someone or something is able to, like can, someone or something can do something. Or it can be used as kind of a question in the sense of may I, can I, as a way of asking permission. So let's take some examples. For example, if we want to talk about possibility and say, maybe he's at home, maybe he's in the house, we could say that in Egyptian or Levantine as mumkin huwa fil bayt. Maybe, we don't know, but there's a possibility. Or we can also use it to inquire about the truth of something. So if we wanted to ask, for example, can she read Arabic? We could take mumkin and then use that verb mumkin taqra al-Arabiyya. If you've studied colloquial verbs, you know that ordinarily, all other things being equal, we're going to have a ba prefix on a conjugated verb, right? So one way to express that verb would be بتقرأ, if we wanted to say it as an affirmative statement. بتقرأ العربي. She reads Arabic. But after mumkin and also after lazim, we tend to lose that ba prefix and be left with just the conjugated verb. So, ممكن تقرأ العربية? Can she read Arabic? Maybe yes, maybe no. Or if you're in a class, it might become valuable at some point to know how to excuse yourself to go to the restroom. So if you wanted to say to your teacher, excuse me, can I go to the bathroom please? You could say, ممكن أروح على الحمام, as a way of saying may I please have your permission. Laazim is a word that we can use in exactly the same way to express necessity, things that have to be done, things that need to be done. It can also be used as a way of giving advice, right? As a way of saying, this should happen. You should do such and so. So to take some examples, if we wanted to say, if you were offering advice, friendly or otherwise, and you want to say to a female classmate, for example, you have to study for the test. You really should study for the test. We could say, لازم تدرسي للامتحان. You gotta, you should. And that classmate might be tired and she might reply, well, I have to drink coffee, right, before I do anything else. So we could also say لازم أشرب القهوة or القهوة, right? And in the same way that in English when we say we have to, we need to, we're not always talking about vital necessity, right? But we tend to use those phrases in a way that expresses wants, desires, things that we feel should happen, whether or not they're actually likely to, right? I can say, I should study for the test, but I would rather do something else. I would rather watch a movie. So I could say لازم أدرس للامتحان but I would rather do something else. It's possible. As I said, mumkin and lazim in this kind of structure tends to be more of a colloquial construction, but we can use the same words to express the same concepts in formal Arabic. And just to give you a little bit of a taste of how that can work, we can use similar structures. We actually need a couple of other words on either side for decoration. If we want to express the same kinds of ideas, we can begin a sentence like this with min al-mumkin an, or min al-lazim an. So we have some extra. We have the min and the alif lam, that we're making these concepts definite nouns, and then we have the particle an. And we actually have a separate video on an and how to use it. After an, we need a specific modified form of present tense verb called al-mudari' al-mansub. We have a separate video on that as well. But just as an example, if we wanted to say, I have to study for the test in Fusha, in formal Arabic, we could express the same idea using pretty much the same words. Instead of لازم أدرس للامتحان, I have to study for the test, we could say من اللازم أن أدرس للامتحان. Formal Arabic has many other ways to express these ideas. We have a lot of words that we could use, but it is possible to use the same words to convey the same ideas. But as we've seen in these examples, mumkin and lazim are two of the most powerful ways that we have in spoken colloquial Egyptian and Levantine to express our wants, our needs, and even opinions in Arabic. So they're a really great way to increase your expressive power.